Hello everybody, my name is Pravus, and welcome to more Hearts of Iron 4, unmodded this time. We are going back to the base game to try out the new content pack that was recently released, the Battle for the Bosporus. This is a new DLC content pack that focuses around Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey, which makes sense, because, you know, the Bosporus. Each of them gets some new national focus trees, some of which are very interesting, and I'm looking forward to playing with them today. Specifically, I want to play with Turkey. Now, you've always been able to form the Ottoman Empire if you meet certain prerequisites, but apparently in the new national focus tree, there's a bit more complexity and depth to creating that Ottoman Empire. You gotta follow a very specific path in your national focus tree, and it seems like a lot of fun, so we're gonna go for this today. There are some achievements associated with playing as the Ottoman Empire, some of which are very, very difficult. In fact, the hardest achievement that was recently introduced into the game is one where you have to occupy the capitals of the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, the Germans, and Japan. That's a little tough to do. Basically, World Conquest mode is Turkey, but I don't know, maybe we can pull that one off. I kind of doubt it because, you know, I'm really not much of an achievement hunter in Hearts of Iron 4, but I want to play at least enough to form the Ottoman Empire, see what this new national focus tree has to offer, and if we're looking really strong, then maybe we can make something happen. I don't know. Alright, so Turkey starts off very, very weak at the beginning of the game. We do not have a lot of factories to start. That's not great. More than some of our neighbors, perhaps, but, you know, overall, not a major power by any stretch of the imagination. We have a handful of units, some of which are of templates we don't even have equipment for, like tanks, so I'm actually going to swap all these guys over to basic infantry so we don't have to worry about it. We have a huge deficit of infantry equipment by doing so, like very few guns, so this kind of sucks. I'm going to go ahead and actually go just divert everything I've got to getting infantry equipment for now, just so I have a reasonable army situated and ready to go. Now, Turkey does have some interesting political instability in the game, and it actually is somewhat similar, not quite, but somewhat similar to the issues you'd find if you were playing as any of the Spanish nations for the Spanish Civil War. If you take a look at decisions down here, you can see there are some states where, for example, we have fundamentalists that are opposing our current government, and we'd have to spend some political power and some force in order to try and get them to become more compliant with us. We also have a lot of resistance from the Kurds off to the east, which of course is a very sensitive issue right now, but there we go. Looks like if we were to spend some power and we have some troops in the mountains, maybe we could actually get these guys under control, maybe we couldn't, kind of depends on whatever you want to do. But that would take a lot of political power getting these guys under control, and in the meantime, you got some resistance that's going to be ticking up over here, and they're going to be sabotaging your stuff. So that's an issue. We also eventually are going to see that we have a lot of political parties and different factions within our government that want to take control. We can pick kind of winners and losers there, but ultimately some of those may end up coming back to oppose us. Basically, Turkey is going to be trying to experiment with democracy a little bit here, and my goal is to experiment with it enough to then say, you know what, we've come to a conclusion, we don't like this anymore, we want to restore our old empire and, you know, back to the glory days. That's what I want to convince my people of. That's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and quickly set up a few generals. We got some field marshals. We actually have some pretty decent generals right now, which isn't half bad. I guess I'll take you or something, that's fine. Let's see, can we possibly set up some naval invasions to go against Greece in the future? I think the answer to that is yes, so I'm going to do that. We're going to take, let's see, another naval invasion from here to here, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, sign like this. Gotta do this weird thing where you have to deselect. I swear to God, some of these days they're going to actually fix that. There we go. No idea if we're actually going to get to use any of that. Now, you might think we want to go for some very early aggression against Greece and Turkey, and I would love to if I could, but first things first, we have to worry about the fact that the Bosporus is actually a demilitarized zone now in this game, and we have to request permission to remilitarize, and hopefully the UK and the Soviet Union will offer their support to that extent. If they don't, well, then we have to kind of pick our battles. Do we want to just entrench and say, nope, we're doing this, and maybe risk an early war that we will definitely lose, or what? I don't know. In this case, I'm actually completely fine with going for the early aggression there and making the risk, because it's early enough in the game that, like, what are people going to do? If we lose, right? Let's go ahead and build up a few more civilian factories. I do definitely need to get some more of these. Right now, we don't have a lot of civilian factories. A lot of them are also taken up for consumer goods because we have a civilian economy. Nothing surprising there, just, you know, problems, things that I have to worry about. Let's take a look at our navy here. Let's make sure that we do assign an admiral. This guy's a champion of a specific faction. We have basically the Kemalists, the Traditionalists, and then the Kurds are the three major factions I have to contend with right now. I guess I'll take you as my admiral for the time being. I don't know if once we try to form the Ottomans, we are guaranteed to have issues with some of our officers abandoning us. I would not be surprised if that were the case, but we'll see. There's definitely going to be a civil war. I guarantee you that. When I try to form the Ottoman Empire, there will be a civil war that we have to then deal with. And while we're fighting, we're probably going to have problems with the Kurds, too. Most likely, but we will see. The Kurds are considered to be an occupied territory, so we do want to be building up some compliance with them. Their resistance will be going up. There's actually a good argument to be made to get a spy agency very early on, so we will be able to use him to tamp down on the resistance. And then considering how long it's going to take me to actually get any of these factories, I think I'm actually okay with that. Let's go ahead and create a quick agency. I guess this will be fine. We're going to hire a spy as early as we can just to keep the resistance down and save me some of my manpower and my equipment, because at the moment, anyway, we're going to have a hard time with this. Alright, these guys are going to be costing me a lot of garrison units, and I don't think I like that none at all. Alright, so now we sit back and we wait, and I am going to be doing some jump cuts here because the early game is going to be very, very slow as Turkey while we wait for a lot of different things to kind of line up. We're not going to be fighting anybody for a bit. We have to get our political situation figured out. It's going to take some time. Real quick, though, let's look at a couple of different things like our national spirits. We are currently led by Kemalists. This is the one faction that we currently have in our government. This is getting me some extra stability and stuff, which is nice. We do, however, have some sectarian woes, which you can see is reducing my stability and my war support because we have these three different factions that are at each other's throats. We also have a disorganized armed forces, which is hurting me across the board in so many different ways. This is just terrible. Very terrible. So we don't like this. We want to get rid of it as fast as we can. Wow, that was a faster spy agency than I expected. But boom, there we go. So now these guys are back to producing some more of these factories. And in the meantime, we are now recruiting an operative who hopefully will make things easier. There's also something special down here called the Debt Council, a Turkish Debt Council, because we're still suffering after World War I and trying to get our financial situation back in control. We can't get rid of this at the beginning of the game, and it's costing me political power, consumer goods, resources going to market, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is just unpleasant. We don't like it. We want to get rid of it. But we can only do so, I believe, through a national focus of some sort. So we're not going to be able to do anything with that, at least for a little bit. Hello, inventive genius. You look kind of fun. I would like to get that. Eh, whatever. All right, so that's pretty much all we got going on here, at least for a little bit. I don't have a lot of political power, so we aren't going to be able to tamp down on these guys, and basically there's an 80% chance that the resistance is going to go up for the Kurds because we don't have the political power to try and tamp these guys down. And once they become like a threat and they start getting their escalation up, like spending political power, it's not going to be a 50-50 chance. It's going to be like a 20-80% chance that it goes against me. 80% chance of failure is what I mean to say. So the Kurds are going to be a problem, at least for a good long while. That's why I need to be getting the occupied territories to be a bit more effective using a spy, and I need this compliance to go way, way up if possible. Let's wait for a quick moment and we'll get ourselves our spy. That should help. Let's see. We have a few options here. A commando who's tough with several different nationalities could be useful to me. And let's see, natural order. This is good for coups and boosting ideology. I don't really care about any of that. And safecracker, no. We're going to go ahead and pick you up. You should be fine. And we will use you to root out resistance in this state down over here and try to keep the Kurds slightly under control. But you can see they are already sabotaging some of my stuff. Not exactly happy about that. Alright, so we got the Montreux Convention. It is outrageous that despite everything that has happened since the Great War, we are still denied the rights to administer our own straits. Instead of a unilateral seizing of the straits by our military, let us instead try a more deft diplomatic maneuver so we can escape this crisis without becoming Europe's new pariah. The UK is going to get an event, and then the Soviets are going to potentially give us some backlash. Now we have to make a decision. Down over here, I don't know exactly what the right path goes for. I think it can lead to things like Balkan federations or potentially trying to become communist or fascist or something along those lines. But I'm looking ultimately to go down the left path because this is what's going to lead toward pivoting toward the past and the reformation of the Ottoman Empire. So we have to go down the fully integrating of the IS Bank. I guess it's called IS? I don't know, whatever. This gets me some political power, which I very much need, as well as a new prime minister who gives me some trade power and so on. Also, we get trade power for free, which I'm not really thrilled about, but whatever. We're gonna go for it. So the UK loans its support, and we get some base war support. Thank you. The Soviet Union opposes our remilitarization of the Straits. They have stated in very clear terms that they find our unilateral seizing of the Turkish Straits to be unlawful, and they intend to take extreme measures to reverse our decision. Despite being pressed by our diplomats, the Soviets refuse to rule out a military intervention. We can compromise, and the Soviet Union and all other nations that share a coast in the Black Sea shall retain their privileges of free access. Or, no settlements, no compromise, we have this right. There's a chance that this is going to become a problem. It's our last chance to de-escalate. I'm going to try for it. And if it fails, it fails. We'll give it a go, though. Let's see what happens. The British are abandoning us. Oh, no. We could say, fine, never mind, they are demilitarized. Or we can say, screw it, nothing's changed, we stay the course. I'm going to try for it. Back down. Yes! They back down. I have no idea what the odds are, but, I mean, in my 2 test games to see what this does, so far, it's been fine. Joseph Stalin personally telephoned us where he coolly urged the easing of tensions and praised the Turkish president for his contributions to the struggle against imperialism. Yep, there we go. Political power gained some base stability, and they are no longer considered to be militarized zones, which is great. Let's go for some area defense in these areas and just make sure. I want to see if having an army over here actually results in me having a better time against the Kurds. I don't think it does, but we'll see. So now I have some political power. I would be sorely tempted to change up our civilian economy, but if I can get a little bit more war support, I'd rather save the political power and jump straight to partial mobilization. So we'll worry about that later. For now, let's go for an advisor such as the Silent Workhorse for a little bit of extra political power. So we're now generating 1.29 per day. There's also a financial expert I'd like to get, which reduces consumer goods a bit, which is pretty darn helpful as far as, like, actually, you know, building up my economy a little faster. So I do want to go for some of that. Let's go for the extra research speed. So we failed with the stopping of the escalation, and it looks like there actually is still a 50% chance we could force them to back down. So I'm wrong on this. It looks like having military units over here does give me the opportunity to try and force these guys to back down. Getting some extra compliance and stuff is nice. Reducing resistance so we stop getting sabotaged and stuff is nice. But for now, I think I actually would prefer to try and get some additional advisors that would help me. So for the time being, I think I'll live with it. Well, we're going to have to fight a civil war anyway. I might have to fight the Kurds eventually anyway. I mean, I don't know. Call me crazy, but I'd rather save myself a civilian factory right now. To me, that just seems pretty darn helpful. All right, gotta wait for a little bit. Let's jump cut. There's the integration of the bank. Now we have to ratify the 6 arrows, and this has to do with the political factions we could choose to support in our nation. Based on what I've read. I'm actually going into this somewhat blind, aside from a couple of quick test games to just make sure everything was working, my recording software the way I wanted. I don't actually know much of anything about, like, the proper path. I've done some reading of the dev diaries, so I sort of know what to do. But I'm not super sold on it either. I could be completely wrong on a lot of these factors. I wouldn't mind getting the military theorist, but it's not absolutely required for me to get that. Could be okay, though. The Debt Council still has sway over our economic affairs. There's nothing I can do on any of this right now. Do I go for the theorist, or do I start tamping down on, let's say, the Kurds? A 50% chance feels like a lot of a risk for 100 power. Right? Not just me? That feels pretty risky. Yeah, this actually has a 20% chance it would go against me. Oh, there we go. Okay. No, so some of these states actually would be a problem, and some of them are completely fine. I honestly think that I just save the political power and I don't worry about it. And I'm honestly not sure that I want to counter the traditionalists, because I think ultimately the traditionalists are going to be my chosen faction. So, yeah, I'm just going to ignore some of that for the time being. I am going to ignore that. How are we doing logistically? Well, we're producing some guns, for sure, but not doing very well. We're actually low on steel, and that's slowing down my production quite a bit. I'm happy to trade for at least a little bit of steel. I'm not going to use up 2 factories, but at least a little bit more should increase how much I'm producing by a few more guns per day, and that can make a difference. So we'll try for that. I think I'll go for the dispersed industry this time around. Dispersed does seem to be still pretty decent. And, do I go for the theorist? I guess I could. Alternatively, like, infantry and equipment designers and stuff is tempting. Could try to change up my laws. Not going to worry about that right now. Yeah, let's just go for the theorist, I think. The theorist should be okay. It's going to start getting me some of that valuable military experience. And that's the only way that I'm going to get any right now, because I have no intention of training my units. Nice as that would be, because it's going to use up what little guns I have left. We can't afford to do that, so we're not going to be training our units. Let's just save all that, start generating a little army experience this way, and let that be that. How are we doing as far as the resistance? It's sort of breaking even around like 35-ish%. You can see, by the way, the states that had the low resistance are actually the ones that were the easiest for me to placate. So, yeah, it's not going to be... As this continues to go up, it's only going to get worse. If we could find ways to reduce more resistance, that'd be great. Getting military police would help with that. Going for, let's say, the spy agency upgrade where I can go for... What is it? Not psychological, not interrogation. Which one was it? Anti-partisan. There we go. We can root out resistance a little bit more effectively by doing this. That is a thing, and it's tempting, except I kind of want to save my factories so I can keep getting more of these civilian factories. So I think for the moment, at least, it's not worth it. But we could make our spy a little bit more effective if we wanted to. Okay, some construction speed is done. I think now's the time where I want to go ahead and start working on the doctrine, and I will be going for superior firepower. I just find it generally to be my personal favorite regardless. By the way, let's actually go to our recruitment and make sure that garrisons get top priority to try and make sure we keep that resistance down nice and low. But yeah, I do find that superior firepower is still my favorite. Mobile warfare is pretty good, but it depends a lot on your economic situation at the beginning of the game. Mobile warfare is good if you have a few factories and you're willing to go for a lot of tank breakthroughs, but if you don't have that, then I find just generally superior firepower is good. You can't really go wrong, it seems. Okay, we have ratified the 6 arrows. Now, we could go for a treaty that tries to set up a network, or sorry, a faction, there we go, with Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq. Good chance that some of them will say no, at least Iran probably will. This is just sort of okay right now. I don't think I absolutely need to do this. We could go for some special projects where I spend political power to get free factories. I say free, it costs a little bit, but there you go. And also lots of trade relations and stuff. At some point, a lot of this ends up being pretty good, but I think I'm going to go for instead the privatizing of the Anadolu Agency, which gets me some popularity of democracy and some more base stability. Base stability, of course, being good for trying to reduce down the resistance, for getting more political power, blah, blah, blah. Also, we have to experiment with democracy, like I said. So we're going to be going down a somewhat democratic route. Somewhat democratic. Before we eventually change things. Basically, democracy is going to backfire horribly, if I remember from the Dev Diaries correctly. Or was it the Dev Diaries or something else? I think it was the Dev Diaries. We're going to experiment with democracy, and then people are going to find, oh, we don't actually like this democracy because you elected the wrong person. And once you have the wrong person, I mean, they're just going to be like, screw democracy, let's just go ahead and have the Ottomans. Okay, Spanish Civil War just kicked off. That's going to be fun. Have no intention of getting involved in this one, though, so you do you. This is, by the way, my last chance to censor the press if I so desired. I don't actually want to do that, though, because I'm not trying to increase the support for non-aligned. You can see, by the way, up over here, because of that 6 arrows, we actually do have several different ways we could spend political power to try and build up different factions, such as the Republicans, which gets me more support for unaligned and some more stability every week, which can be pretty good, but only lasts for 14 days, so it's basically 5% more stability. We also have secularism, which can have a chance of cooperation between the different factions. Populism for political power for 60 days, and some weekly manpower and stuff, not bad. Nationalism for a month of extra war support. Reformism for more political power and democracy support, and liberalism for consumer goods, but also faster construction speed. Honestly, I don't think I need to worry about any of those. I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to get our Ottoman Empire without messing with any of those factions directly, so we're going to ignore that. Now I'm going to go for a lift of the ban of other political parties, which is going to get me more democracy, but also is going to get me war support, and with that extra war support, I plan on jumping right to the partial mobilization, because that's going to make it a lot easier for me to build all sorts of stuff, and we need that. So, yeah, that's got to be our next absolute priority. I think I'm going to try switching over to a local police force to try and get that resistance target down a little bit. It's probably only going to be getting worse in a little bit, given that we have more events about to fire in a few days where they're going to ramp up their intensity. I'm going to have some troops sitting around Kurdistan ready to invade if they do go into a rebellion, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think we could, I don't know what happens if you fail this. It says that we lose some base stability and stuff, yes. Yeah, no, I don't think it's worth trying to burn these guys down. I mean, a 50-50 chance is okay. We could try to get our stability back up if we keep trying to build up republicanism within our country, but I really don't want to get the extra support for the unaligned. So, yeah, we'd have to spend about 125 political power every time we fail one of these events in order to try and get them under control. I don't know. This doesn't seem like that great to me. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm not excited about it, like, at all. Let's go ahead and grab the radio. That's something I often neglect longer than I should, and having the signals can be very helpful. Reinforce rate does matter quite a bit in this game, so I'm happy with that. Anti-partisan, man, I am highly tempted to go ahead and start picking those up, but do I really want to start using up my civilian factories on that right now when I'm still trying to build out? And the answer is probably not. Mechanical computing for the extra research speed. Thank you kindly. What do we want next? Well, we probably should be getting things like engineers. I also would love to learn how to make some better tanks. Planes don't seem that important to me, and I don't really know if I care about going for resource gain efficiency. We could go ahead of time on some stuff, but So let's go ahead and start working on things like the support weapons. I don't want to go that far ahead of time in any particular tech right now. I don't feel confident enough in my situation to justify some of that. And do we take the risk? 50% chance. What else would I spend the political power on right now? Besides the fact that we're going to change this in a moment. We have enough. Probably a material designer guy for the research speed. Alright, just for fun, let's try once. We're going to click this button and see what happens. We're going to counter the effects. They defeated our forces. Well, I get some of my political power back. That's something. I do lose some base stability, unfortunately. But we tried, and we failed. And we can keep trying, and we can keep failing. Alright, now we have enough war support that I can go for the partial mobilization, so let's do that now. That should make it a lot easier for me to start ramping up. We cannot go for the multi-party election yet. An official opposition party has not yet been organized, so until we get that, that's not going to be an option. So let's go ahead and start rallying, for example, for the extra political power building civilian factories, etc. Honestly, probably would have been better to save the political power so that once I have these options, I could have just rushed a bunch of those out instead, but I don't know. I think it was worth a shot at the very least, right? There's the opposition movement beginning to form, and we have some stability issues. Okay, Turkish political scientists believed it would take weeks for a legitimate opposition movement to begin to form once the ban on political parties was lifted, but they have all been proven wrong. Adnan Menderes has waited no time in gathering a group of like-minded traditionalists unhappy with the state of religious faith in Turkey under the Kemalists. In the past, when a Turkish political movement has been hijacked by religious fundamentalists, the entire process of transitioning to democracy has been shut down, but not this time. This time, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk has determined to beat this movement out of fanatics at the polls come election day. Menderes and his cabal of fundamentalists have gathered together in what they are calling the Traditional Group, which the CHP has identified as the progenitor to a populist Islamist movement planning to run on a platform of conservatism and traditionalism. The Traditional Group will canvass in the Turkish countryside over the following weeks for the purpose of building a support base, and once they have gathered enough deluded followers, they will no doubt debut their inevitable opposition party. So, there's now a Democratic Party, and Menderes is probably the guy that I want, if I recall. I'm pretty sure he's the guy that we want in order to try and reform the Ottoman nation, so that's going to be a thing. I could try to go for a little bit of the political stability. I'm also going to. Now that I think about it, it's one of the cheapest ways to gain stability that you can possibly get for 25 political power, so that's probably going to be worth it for me right now. But we are losing stability rapidly. You know, maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe we're going to go down to 0% stability and there's really nothing I can do about it. And if that's the case, then we are almost certainly going to have issues with the Kurds. Conspiracy to commit voter fraud in the rural regions. How dare you? It is sad for Turkey's nascent democracy, as a plot to rig the future election results so that they favor Menderes' opposition movement has been uncovered. The plot involving religious leaders, local leaders, or administrators, and even state employees has been foiled and the conspirators arrested. Okay, so we can gain some stability and a popularity for non-aligned goes up. The traditionalists will increase their intensity or will quietly offer amnesty and hope it's all forgotten, and the Kurds will increase their intensity. I guess I'll go for, I don't know if I want this. I think we have to lose the stability. I'm trying to remember what the exact route is. I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure we have to go down to low stability and force the civil war to fire, if I recall correctly. Could be wrong. Pretty sure that's what you're supposed to do, though. So we're going to grab the superior firepower now. Let's go for the delay for the extra organization for our leg infantry. Usually is still pretty good. Gigantic rally held in support for the Menderes movement. A rally was held in the hinterlands, drew crowds comparable and speeches were given when we in the heart of Istanbul. Oh boy, sounds like they are getting a lot of supporters, lots of traditional conservatism, blah, 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 blah. This is a dark day for the Republic. Democracy goes up. Yeah, we're trying to increase the popularity of Democratic. I'm pretty sure that's what we're trying to do. We need to force an election to occur, one way or another. Alrighty. The Traditional Group is approaching the Kurds for an alliance. This is borderline treason. The cooperation could bear fruit in the future. I don't want to lose the political power, so I'm going to accept this for now. I don't think a little bit of base stability is going to hurt me exactly. I have no idea if that's going to result in any issues. Maybe. I am assuming that ultimately what matters is we pick the right guy when the election happens. I'm assuming that's what really is going to impact me, but we'll see. Would love to get the infantry equipment designer if at all possible. That'll certainly speed up a lot of my weapons design. Rural citizens are trying to increase their voter turnout. The unconstitutional shut it down. The democratic will of the people. We can go for more democracy. All right, we're going to go for more democracy. We have enough now that we could, like, sort of force a sort of coup, I think. Hold national referendum. There it is. Democrats demand the referendum. Would cost a bit of political power. That said, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to get an election anyway. Democrat Party. There we go. 8 hours ago, Menderes triumphantly announced the debut of Turkey's newest and most dangerous opposition party, the Democrat Party. He announced the Democrat Party intended to topple the CHP's monopoly on power, and the country will be steered in a brand new direction, the likes of which has never been seen before. The three pillars of the party were unveiled to jubilant crowds, the Menderes pledging his government would be committed to restoring faith, the fatherland, and freedom in that order. More surprising was Menderes' announcement that a DP-led Turkey would be decidedly more interventionist than any other Turkey government since the nation's founding. This announcement was met with fury inside the Kemalist circles, and Mustafa has pledged to his supporters in Istanbul today that even if the election will be harder fought than initially believed, the CHP shall emerge from the upcoming election still the governing leaders of the nation. All right, so we now have a new Democratic Party, and there goes the rising Islamist dissidents. Or at least I thought it was supposed to be gone, but apparently not. By the way, we might actually need to change some of these guys up. And instead of going here... can we... Get rid of that. There we go. And maybe land up over here? I could be wrong, but maybe we're going to need to do a naval invasion to try and get up to Istanbul, because I'm sort of anticipating we're about to have a problem. Call me crazy, but I sort of suspect that's going to happen. Let's get a fallback line right along here, preferably. I'm going to try to draw them out. Istanbul is a very difficult strait to deal with. If the enemy holds this and you just charge into them, there's a very good chance that you basically just lose everything you've got, but we're going to try for it. Let's see if we can make that one work. Still waiting to get this infantry equipment guide, but we're about to get this ability. Actually, it's probably better to start buying factories instead of the infantry equipment designer. Yeah, that's probably the case. Alright, so we've got that. Now we want to go for holding the first election in 70 days. We will try to go for a flip. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of our new options with industrial projects. Here we go. So, we would temporarily be losing a bit of political power, but we would be able to start getting some more civilian factories. There's also a private enterprise. Popularity of fascism goes up. Okay, and we get a new leader and a military factory. Okay. Or civilian, civilian, civilian. Okay. So what do we want? Civilian or military? Much as I wouldn't mind having the military, I do think the civilian factories are going to be more important, so let's try for this. We can only do this every 180 days and spend 50 political power, so I'm going to try for it. In the meantime, yeah, we lose more than 50 political power just because of how much we're losing per day, but that's all in the weeds. It'll be fine. Let's go ahead and send all of our troops over here. I have no idea how many of these guys we're going to lose once the Civil War does begin, but there we go. I do think this is probably a good place for us to end this first video. I'm hoping that I've done this right up to this point. We are going to hold that first multi-party election in about 67 days. And once, 57 days. And once that is done, we're going to have to fight a civil war. I assume it's going to be all of rural Turkey versus Istanbul. I'm pretty sure. What I don't know is what the Kurds are going to do. Depending on what the Kurds do, we might have a slight issue, but we'll see. It might end up being okay. It might not. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If so, then I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
All right, let's go ahead and do it.